Hello, I'm Sally and today I'm going to be telling you all about these amazing plants. These are orchids. And as well as telling you my favourite facts about orchids, I'm also going to show you how you can make one of these, your own paper orchid flower. Now, you might already know a little bit about orchids. This one in particular might look a bit familiar because orchids can be really popular houseplants. Maybe you've even got one in your house. And I can tell you now, you have almost certainly tasted something from an orchid before, because there's a certain species of orchid from Mexico which gives us our vanilla flavouring. And if you've ever eaten ice cream with those little black dots in, every time you've been eating those black dots, you've actually been eating orchid seeds. Now, orchid seeds are a little bit different to the seeds you might know about already. When you learn about seeds in school, you learn that they need different things to grow, don't you? They need water, they need the right amount of light, they need the right temperature, and they also need somewhere suitable to grow. While orchids, they need all four of those things, but they also need one extra thing. They need a fungus. And with this fungus, they kind of buddy up with that fungus. And if they don't find the fungus, they can't actually grow. And now finding the fungus for the little seeds can be quite difficult. So to kind of overcome that problem, orchids will produce loads of seeds. In fact, one orchid flower can produce over 1 million of these tiny seeds. And they do this to kind of increase the chances that maybe a few of them might find a fungus and be able to grow. Now, another thing that's really interesting about orchids is to do with how they grow. So, most plants that you know about grow with their roots in the soil, don't they? Well, orchids, in particular tropical orchids, they grow in a completely different way. So this orchid, for example, if this was in the wild, well, it definitely wouldn't be in a pot, but it wouldn't be down in the ground either. A species like this would probably be growing on the side of a tree, maybe sticking out at a bit of an angle, like that even. Now, when plants do this, they're called epiphytes. And the reason that they do this, as you probably know, plants need sunlight to make their energy. And by growing on the side of other plants, that allows them to get a little bit closer to the sunlight and helps them grow. But it is not all it's not a completely easy life growing on the side of a tree. In particular, it can be quite difficult for these plants when they don't have their roots in the soil to get enough water. So orchids have evolved a few adaptations to help them cope with this. So this orchid, if you look at these roots, it's got these amazing long aerial roots, and they're kind of covered in this greeny grey silvery stuff. Now, that's actually a special feature of orchid plants, and it's called velamen, and it helps orchids take up water from the humid air where they grow. Now, this orchid, I've got a different orchid species here, if you can see it. This orchid deals with water in a different way. If you can see this thing here, it's like got a swollen stem, and that is called a pseudobulb. Now, a pseudobulb is like the plant's very own little water bottle. So if this plant ever needs any water, it can just use some of the reserves in its pseudobulb. Now, another interesting thing about orchids is how many of them there are in the world. So I've got two different types here, but in the world, there are 28,000 different orchid species. And if you compare that to, say, mammals, there are 4 times as many species of orchids in the wild as there are mammals, which is quite mind-blowing. Now, the last thing I need to talk to you about before we make our paper flowers is, of course, I need to talk to you about the real orchid flowers, because they are the thing that's extra special about orchids and why people love them so much. And the thing I want to talk to you about is this structure here. All orchids, no matter what species they are, they all have like one petal which is kind of extra special, and that is called the orchid lip. And it's the job of the orchid lip is to make sure that the flower gets pollinated by insects one way or another. Now with this plant, you can see that this lip is a different colour to the other petals. It's got this fancy pattern. So I should think it really makes it stand out to any insects flying around. And also I think it looks like quite a good place to land. So that's how this lip helps this flower. But other orchids do it in different ways. So there's even lips which will trap the insects inside and it won't let them out until they've pollinated the flower. And there's even some orchid lips which look like another insect. So insects looking for a mate will land on the lip and think they're finding a mate when they're not at all. They're actually pollinating the flower. So next time you're out and about, maybe if you see any of these in a supermarket or somebody's house, have a look out and see if you can spot that one petal, which is the orchid lip. Now it's time to make our orchid flowers. And of course, because it's an orchid, it's got its special lip structure. Now this one is based on an orchid called Miltonia spectabilis. And if you want to do it the same colour as an orchid in real life, you can look up that orchid and you can copy the colours of it. Or you can do it whatever colours you want. You can experiment and go a bit wild. It's completely up to you. What you will need to do though, you will need to download a sheet like this, and the information on how to do that is provided below. And you'll need to colour it in. So here's one I've done earlier. And then you'll need to cut out these 3 different bits. I've been very well organised and done this as well. Then all you need to do is you need to stick them all together. So the bit with the lip, that goes at the front. Then these 3 petal-like things, they go behind. And then you can put the leaf behind that as well, and you stick it all together. Now, I've done something extra with mine because it was looking a little bit flat and I wanted mine to look a little bit more 3D, a little bit more lifelike. What I did with my petals is I gave them a little squeeze to make a little bit of a crease to bring it to life. And with the orchid lip, I've given it a curve. So to do that, I use some scissors and I use my thumb. And what you do is I'll show you on this one, you put your, open your scissors up, you put the paper on the blade of the scissors and you gently put your thumb on top, and then you pull the paper through between your thumb and your scissors and it gives it a curve. So that's your orchid flower. I hope you have lots of fun making them at home. It would be lovely to see how you get on actually, so if you can share any pictures, that would be great. You can use them to decorate your house. If you're maybe studying the rainforest in your classroom and you're making a big display, you could include a few orchid flowers in there. And one thing we did at home is when we made them, we attached them to pegs. You can see a little peg on the back of this one so that we could clip it onto things. And we even clipped them onto other plants which aren't orchids to kind of trick people into thinking that we have more orchids in our house than we do. So that's that. I hope you enjoy making your flowers. I hope you found this video interesting and you've learned a few facts about orchids. But that's the end, so I'll say goodbye. Bye bye.